So, can you hear in the back? Okay. This is time for contemplative meditation on the four immeasurables. And those are, to make the list, loving kindness, compassion, equanimity, and joy. And they're often given with loving kindness first, but the Dalai Lama often starts with equanimity, and I want to do that today for several reasons. First of all, these immeasurables are immeasurable, and they're immeasurable in at least two ways. The qualities themselves cannot be measured. How would one measure compassion? Even in an individual relative situation, how would you measure it? So it is not measurable. But they're also immeasurable because in the Mahayana teachings, which we are engaged in, as Lama Michael pointed out this morning, and our beautiful prayers pointed out this morning, we don't leave any being out. And we cannot measure those beings. I always have my doubts about these measurements of humans, for example, that there's 7.5 billion people on the earth. Well, it's got to be an estimate unless somebody is counting every birth and every death, which are happening by the tens of thousands every moment. But it's probably a pretty good estimate. So just the humans are immeasurable in number. And then we include animals. We include birds and fish and insects and anything that is sentient, that is, has feelings. One teacher said, anything that would move away from danger or fire or flood, anything that would try to move away from that. So, immeasurable. And why I like to start with equanimity is because we need to apply each of these in an equanimous way. Loving kindness to each being. And most of us are quite caught in this attachment to those close around us, or aversion to those close around us. And in that attachment aversion, we don't really abide in our bodhisattva vow, that every being is equally precious. Every being, as Lama Michael just said, no being deserves to suffer. Not one single being. Every being has this Buddha nature, same as us. Every being suffers. Every being wants happiness. And every being with a samsaric mind does not know how to maintain that happiness like us, right? I want happiness, but I most days head towards some kind of suffering. and then go, oops, it's not where I wanted to go. So I want to start simply by reading this beautiful prayer that comes from a prayer book from Shravasti Abbey and from my teacher, Venerable Tipton Chidran. It's called The Four Immeasurables. How wonderful it would be if all sentient beings were to abide in equanimity, free of bias, free of attachment, free of anger. May they abide in this way. I shall cause them to abide in this way. Buddha, please inspire me to be able to do so. How wonderful it would be if all sentient beings had happiness and the causes of happiness. May they have these. I shall cause them to have these. Buddha, please inspire me to be able to do so. How wonderful it would be if all sentient beings were free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they be free. I shall cause them to be free. Buddha, please inspire me to be able to do so. How wonderful it would be if all sentient beings were never parted from upper rebirth and liberation's excellent bliss. May they never be parted. I shall cause them never to be parted. Buddha, please inspire me to be able to do so. It's kind of a renewal of the Bodhisattva vow hidden in there. So we'll spend some time now contemplating each of the immeasurables, and I want to infuse them with the equanimity. So we'll start with loving kindness. That's the one, that is the wish that beings have happiness and its causes. So one level of that happiness is simply enough of things that bring us human comfort and health. We wish everyone to have those things: food, clothing, friends, shelter, medicine, good health. Just take a moment and send that out as far as you can, including beings far beyond what we can think of. Send it there too. Just the wish that they have all the things they need as sentient beings to be comfortable and healthy and content. And infusing that with equanimity, you can bring to mind a being you consider difficult, or maybe one who considers you an enemy, and send that wish to him or her. I wish you had comfort and ease and enough in your life. And send that wish to a stranger, to all strangers, which is really the largest category for us. We have close by beings, but most beings are not physically close to us, so send it to the multitude of strangers in every realm. Animals, humans, God realm beings. Beings who may be stuck in what are called the hell realms, so much suffering of anger and fear that that's all they experience. Or so-called hungry ghost realms, beings who just are filled with craving so that it dominates their minds. Send these wishes to them, remembering at some time you've been close to them, some other lifetime. They were so close to you. Then simply drop all thoughts. Drop into your experience. No judgment. No analysis. And now we expand that wish for happiness, that loving kindness. And we wish for beings to have what's called higher happiness. The happiness of finding an authentic spiritual path that they can engage in and move along in every life to experiencing their Buddha nature. Send that out. Give them your Dharma. Give them your teachers. Give them all your Dharma materials. Wish for them to have those. Do this for, of course, friends and family, but also the multitude of strangers, all the animals, all the birds, all the insects. They do have minds. Wish this for your enemies or those who might call you an enemy. That they would find meaningful spiritual paths according to their circumstances that would lead them to full awakening swiftly. Each one of those beings has taken care of you in the past, has been kind to you, and sometimes cruel to you. And even in that cruelty we learn, so we can thank them and wish them these lives from here on out filled with nothing but happiness. Worldly happiness and the happiness of being on the path to full awakening and accomplishing it. Send that to the person next to you. Then again, drop all the visuals, thoughts. Simply be with your experience. Now we consider the immeasurable of compassion, the wish for beings to be free of suffering. So to infuse that with equanimity, call to mind a person who it's easy for you to wish them free of suffering, a beloved friend, a family member, perhaps a child is the easiest. Wishing that one to be free of suffering. And right next to that person, call to mind a stranger, maybe someone you see on the bus or at a grocery store, your mail carrier, someone you're not particularly close to, but you can call clearly to mind. And clearly call to mind someone you have difficulty with. Could also be a family member, could be someone in the political landscape, but someone where it's really difficult for you to feel kindness consistently toward. So picture those three beings. And look closely until you understand they suffer. You don't need to know someone well to know that. Every human suffers from unwanted sickness over and over with no control over it. Unwanted death, headed towards death from the moment of birth. No one wants that. Yet these beings before you have that. All suffering from uncontrolled aging, losing capacity as time goes by. See if your heart can connect with each of those beings. The close one, the one you have aversion to, and the stranger. Connect with the truth of their suffering, just like you. And naturally, the wish for that suffering to end will rise. It may take time, but it will, because that's our natural Buddha nature. We wish no one to suffer. Confusion can cause those thoughts, but since they're opposite from reality, they don't stay. So simply send towards each one of those beings, close one, stranger, and one you feel aversion toward, send toward them this deep, kind wish. I wish your suffering would end. And I want to do what I can so that can occur. Whatever arises toward each one of them, just let that be, no judgment. It's easy towards one, hard towards the other. Great, just see it. And just see it's made of nothing. Thoughts, sensations. There's really nothing truly in the way of this deep wish for compassion. Then again, drop all thoughts, all stories, all visions. You can come to the breath, if that helps. And just rest in your experience of the moment. Now take a moment to stretch and refresh. Refresh your posture, your body. Just relax. Wake up. And now we turn our attention to immeasurable joy. And it's interesting, the meditation on this. Sometimes this joy is called sympathetic joy, because I think that's a very skillful way into wishing everyone to have joy. It seems even though we want joy for people and for ourselves, one of the main difficulties that gets in the way is envy and jealousy of their good fortune. So just try that thought on. Sometimes see if it's true for you. Someone does something wonderful, achieves something good, even spreads wonderful things in the world. And instead of rejoicing, we criticize, or we feel, I could do that better, should have been me, or I want that. They didn't do it good enough. Even they don't deserve it. And this can set up the suffering of competition, criticism, division. It's all driven by the ego, the false ego, the confused ego, sense of I and other, competition. So in this contemplation, one of the ways in is to bring to mind someone who has done something quite good in the world. And simply totally rejoice in it, because what they've done is what you want in the world. And only the false ego thinks it should have been me that did it, gets the award, gets the credit, gets the title, gets the job, gets the car, gets the relationship. So simply contemplate a situation where you felt that in the past or you're feeling it now. And very honestly, go between that sense of being happy that they have done this, and often a sense of the self being left out or unhappy, jealous. With no judgment towards yourself, simply see if you can head toward that joy, that they put something good into the world, something you want to have in the world, whether you did it or not. And as you contemplate them doing good and their feeling of joy in doing good, just join in their joy. Wish it to become immeasurable. That all of us would just abide in that joy constantly. Seeing goodness arise in the world and being so happy that it's there. Happy for common goodness. Happy for uncommon goodness. Just so happy that goodness arises wherever it arises, even in our enemy. Goodness can and will arise at times. And feel the goodness and joy of that. The goodness of strangers. The goodness of bodhisattvas, of animals. Really enjoy their goodness. And then drop into your experience, letting go of all thoughts. Notice what the body is feeling, the mind, sensations, with no story, just your experience. And now touch in on your own joy, your joy that you have heart toward others, the joy of the Dharma. The joy that's so precious and rare to have a life with the Dharma, with a path, with a reliable set of refuges. How amazing. How fortunate. So good. And finally, we look more closely at equanimity itself. The Dalai Lama says over and over, there's no difference between the self and others. He always says that sentence, there's no difference between self and others. Everyone wants happiness. Everyone wants to be free of suffering. And we can see even within ourselves that we don't know yet how to sustain that. In our confusion, we move towards suffering. We think harming someone else will relieve our suffering. Such confusion. We all have that. We are so similar. We're all subject to birth, aging, sickness, death. Every being. One teacher said, there's so much suffering in the world. How in the world can I possibly think of adding to it? So for the last contemplation, again, call to mind someone close to you who you feel loving towards, another stranger, and someone you wish you'd never met. Bring them clearly to mind. Realize that each of them suffer. In particular ways, but they do suffer. Call to mind that each of them have been close to you in past lives. They've helped you, maybe saved your life. Maybe they were your mother, your father, a good friend. See that with each one of them. Be honest about whatever arises. We're not trying to jump over our thoughts and feelings. We want to see them, and we need to see them. For example, the difficulty of actually wishing well toward the difficult one. See that. It's okay, let it be there. See any doubts you may have about rebirth, whether this person could have been close to you. See that too. It's all okay. It's good to see thoughts like, I don't want to. I don't want to wish this person well. Or I think they are solidly a problem. Or I think this other one is solidly always desirable. See if those things are true. It's good to remember that someone loves your worst enemy. For someone, they are lovable. Now look at them again, all three of them, and see if your labels have become a little less solid of friend, enemy, stranger. It's okay if they haven't, but it's something you can observe, see what's happened. And now just relax back into shamatha. Nothing to do. Following the breath, relaxed, aware. And have a stretch. Clear the mind. Be happy. And for this last 7 minutes, you can choose any of those contemplations that drew you, or simply sit in calm abiding till I ring the small bell, about 7 minutes. By this virtue may I quickly realize Mahamudra and establish all beings without exception in this state. Thank you. So we have another short break, about 15 minutes. Still silence, please. Thank you.